See what happened to the girl who made a hasty decision. The man was lifting bricks when a woman came with her friend and said, "You are a liar. You are a very bad person." The man said, "What did I lie about?" The friend said, "You can talk calmly." The woman said, "Don't tell me to calm down." The man said, "Tell me what's the matter." The woman said, "You told me you were an engineer, but you are doing labor work." The man said, "Why are you saying that?" The woman said, "Because no engineer lifts bricks like a laborer." The man said, "So just because I'm lifting bricks, you don't believe I'm an engineer? Do I have no value?" The woman said, "No, I can't talk to a laborer like you." The friend said, "Don't be rude." The woman said, "He's a liar." The man said, "I apologize. I am a laborer and not worthy of you." The woman said, "Fine. Now delete all our pictures from social media. I don't want any connection with you." Both women turned to leave. The man said, "Do you want to meet a real engineer?" The friend said, "Ignore him." The woman said, "I'll teach this poor man a lesson. Go call a young engineer." The man left and called a laborer working inside. He said, "I need your help. I want to make you an engineer for one day." The laborer asked for what? The man said, "To teach a lesson to the woman standing down there." The laborer said, "She won't believe me." The engineer said, "Come with me, I'll prepare you." The man took the laborer with him, dressed him well, and brought him in front of the woman. He introduced him, saying, "This is our site engineer." The woman said, "Nice to meet you. Your name is beautiful. Are you the boss here?" The laborer said, "Yes, I'm the boss." The woman said, "I'll introduce myself properly." The man said, "He's a real engineer." The woman said, "That's obvious." The man said, "Sir, please show madam your project." The woman said, "I'd love to see your work." The laborer said, "I like that idea, but only if your boyfriend doesn't mind." The woman said, "He's not my boyfriend anymore." The man said, "That's true, our relationship is over." The laborer said, "All right, I'd like to spend time with such a beautiful lady." The friend said, "Are you really going with him?" The woman said, "Yes, of course." The friend said, "But you just broke up." The woman said, "I don't care. I'm going, and you're no longer my friend." The woman left with the laborer. A few minutes later, they entered a house. The woman said, "This is a beautiful house." The laborer said, "I built it for a special person." The woman said, "Indeed, the role of engineers is important." The laborer said, "Yes, madam, but our work is different from engineers." Meanwhile, the man showed a ring. The friend said, "Were you going to marry her?" The man said, "Yes. She seemed like a suitable woman. I even bought a house for her." The friend said, "You're a laborer. How did you buy a house?" The man said, "I saved money for years, but now I realize she's not worth it." The friend said, "You also made a mistake by lying that you're an engineer." The man said, "I was ashamed to say I'm a laborer." The friend said, "You shouldn't be ashamed. My father was also a laborer and it's an honest profession." The man said, "Not all women think like you. What do you do?" The friend said, "I'm unemployed." The man said, "I have an offer. Be my girlfriend and I'll give you a house." Meanwhile, the woman said to the laborer, "Can I ask a personal question? Are you married?" The laborer said, "I'm earning." The woman said, "What a coincidence. I'm also single." The laborer said, "That's interesting." The woman said, "You're handsome and I like you. I want to forget everything your friend did to me." The laborer said, "How do you plan to forget?" The woman kissed the laborer and said, "Like this." The laborer said, "Wait a moment. I'll tell my friend not to disturb us." Meanwhile, the friend said to the man, "Your offer is good, but I can't accept it. I'm not that kind of woman." Just then the laborer, pretending to be the engineer, came and said, "Hey, laborer, come here." The friend said, "You're going to get scolded." The man said, "Don't worry." The man asked the laborer, "What happened?" The laborer said, "Sir, your girlfriend kissed me." The man said, "I'm not surprised." The laborer said, "Sir, maybe we should end this experiment." The man said, "No, go and do whatever she wants." The laborer said, "No problem, your ex-girlfriend is very beautiful." The man said, "There's nothing between us now." The laborer said, "Will you be friends with her friend?" The man said, "Yes, she's a different kind of woman." The laborer went back inside. The man returned to the friend and said, "The engineer came to ask some work details." The friend said, "All right, I should go." The man said, "Stay a little longer." The friend said, "I don't want to hear your offers again." The man said, "Did I upset you?" "Wait a second." The man brought flowers from inside and said, "Men can be clumsy sometimes." The friend said, "I like you. I think my friend lost a good man. You're honest, you even built a house, and maybe now you just need someone by your side." The man said, "Thank you. And I want to tell you that our engineer is looking for an accountant. I'll talk to him about hiring you." The friend said, "Thank you. But do you want something in return?" The man said, "No, just be my friend." The friend said, "You're my friend's ex-boyfriend." The man said, "Forget that. Would you go on a date with a laborer?" The friend said, "Yes." Meanwhile, the woman said to the laborer, "Now tell me, will you come with me?" The laborer said, "Are you serious?" The woman said, "If you have an objection, then don't." The laborer said, "No." They started climbing the stairs. On the other side, the man said, "Let me tell you the truth." The friend said, "Are you going to tell another lie?" The man said, "No, I'm actually an engineer. And the in charge here, I just came to help because one of the assistants was absent." The friend said, "You could have explained that to the woman." The man said, "She didn't even give me a chance." The friend said, "Now that you're an engineer, why don't you marry her?" The man said, "No, I now know what I really want in life." The friend said, "Would you give her another chance?" The man said, "If you were in my place, would you choose a woman like her?" The friend said, "Definitely not." Meanwhile, the woman, while kissing the laborer, said, "I need to go somewhere." The laborer said, "Where?" The woman said, "To your house." The laborer said, "That's impossible." The woman said, "Then we can't continue this." The laborer said, "Wait, I'll bring the keys so we can finish what we started." The laborer went to the man and said, "Give me your house keys." The man said, "Why?" The laborer said, "We're going to spend some special time together." The man said, "You're not shy at all." At that moment, the woman came and said, "Are we going?" The laborer said, "Yes, we are." The man said, "Are you serious?" The woman said, said, yes, look, you lost me because of your lies. The man gave the keys to the laborer and said, I'm giving you the day off and the keys to my house so you can enjoy yourself with madam. The woman said, what are you saying? The man said, this laborer asked me for my house keys. The laborer said, he's my boss. I'm just a worker here. The woman said, you're joking, right? The man said, no, you misunderstood everything from the start. The woman said, why didn't you explain before? The man said, you never gave me the chance. The woman said, will you forgive me? The man said, no, I don't want to be with you. You two will be very happy together. The man went to the friend and said, would you like to have dinner with me? The friend said, sure, no problem. Then the woman came and said, wait, you fell in love with him while I was away, you traitor. The friend said, no, you went with your new guy. I did nothing wrong. I won't tolerate your tantrums anymore. You lost a good man. The friend and the man left together. The laborer said, are we going? The woman slapped the laborer and left. A few minutes later while walking, the man said, thank you for accepting my invitation. The friend said, don't get your hopes up. The man said, you're beautiful and deserve love. The friend said, you say that to everyone. The man said, no, only to those with a good heart. The friend said, if you made a mistake recognizing someone, that's okay. The man said, who doesn't take risks never succeeds. The emotional, hasty, and greedy woman lost a good man, while her wise and sensible friend found one.